welcome back to Pixels and Pints UpLate. It's our second short one-shot episode with myself. I am Dan. In honor of Tom not being here, I'm wearing my flannel jumper. His is Big Red, so I've decided to coin mine Big Blue.
I would have called it Deep Blue, but all right.
Deep Blue.
Deep Blue.
And that other voice you hear and those viewing as well is Pete.
Howdy.
And
I'm really excited about this app.
Yeah. So what we're going to do tonight, so these UpLates are our shorter, more focused episodes. And tonight we've decided to, in honor of, we're going to do lots of things in honor of, because I've got honorary mentions in here as well in this list.
It's on the brain.
Pete wanted to talk Foundation because Tom's not with us, and he didn't want to put up with Tom's not wanting to watch things about math and numbers. So we decided we would do a bit of a dive into subgenres within the sci-fi collective parent genre. So subgenres in there. We've got one each. We might not get through the whole list in the hour, but we've got one each out of space operas, space westerns, hard sci-fi, science fantasy, which you tripped me up on this one. I couldn't actually find one that I thought I would happily put under that topic, but we'll get to that later. Horror, sci-fi, time travel movies, monster, SciFi Monster movies, Cyberpunk, and SciFi Comedy movies, which I thought was a fun one to throw in at the end there. So hopefully we get that far down.
And we'll introduce I think we'll talk very briefly about our definition for the subgenre as we go through each one.
And we didn't pull from popular ones. So when we get to space operas, yes, Star Wars is the big one. Flash Gordon, those sort of things. We're not going to talk those ones. We tried to pick more.
We walked the line though, right? I stayed away from things like BSG. I stayed away from things like, but then I put The Expanse in, which is very much fucking mainstream, as is some of the other ones in there. I would also have argued that Star Wars is a good example of science fantasy as much as anything else, because it's got magic in it.
Space wizards.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, most of these don't fit neatly into a subgenre. This is where you get to splitting hairs and a bunch of really smelly guys sitting around a table arguing about it.
Yeah,
we're not going to do that.
I don't agree with your horror one. So we'll talk about that when we get to horror.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, and we're gonna have one. We're having a warm up beer at the moment. We are gonna have one big high ABV. I've got a whiskey barrel aged stout, which, now that I look at it, I'm not sure if I've had it or somebody else had it on there, but this is my one tonight, and I'll be repeating myself if it was me that had it.
And I've got a big imperial stout too. So
cool. Should we sit on those for just a second and roll into maybe the first two, and then?
Yep, sounds good. So we're gonna talk about our favorite movies in each subgenre. I think that we skipped that bit as to what we're talking about. It's our favorites in that kind of those categories. So the first category off the top is space opera. So this is kind of big, melodramatic. You know, there's usually relationships and romance and these types of things. Big risk taking adventures. You know, the really big settings typically.
Definitely.
Did you want to kick off with yours? Which I deleted on mine. I'm pleasantly surprised by how many we had in common, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I actually I've just put my study back together, and it's the first time I'm in my set spot in my proper desk, and it's got a bit of a wobble to it, and it's got metal sides on it. So I apologize if there's any like bell chimes when the metal hits the frames if I lean on it the wrong way. So space opera, I couldn't go past Battlestar Galactica. I mean, I've spoken about it. Like, this is the more modern Battlestar Galactica TV series. Pete's just finished watching it. I'm playing Deadlock, the tactical game. So it's right in the front of my mind at the moment. And we spoke about those first few episodes in season 1, the mini series, and the first proper episode of the pilot season, or the season 1. And I mean, I think it ticks all of those space opera boxes from the very beginning. Big, epic space battles between big frigate cruisers with a whole bunch of little individual piloted ships going around, but smaller frigates getting out there, and smaller corvettes and everything getting involved throughout the series as well. But it just the biggest thing I picked this one for in the space opera side of it was, yes, those big epic battles, but the character development through the season, the 4 seasons that they have. I think, and
it's
spoke about this.
It's almost a drama set in space with
definitely
a bunch of combat and shit going on.
Yes, and a lot of the characters go through drastic changes and huge development and growth arcs. Primarily Starbuck, because she's the one that they focus on mostly through the 4 seasons.
But also all of the final five, yeah. Final 5 go through huge arcs. Adama goes through a huge arc. There's a lot of character development, and if you consider how much character development there was, and then fold that into 3 seasons, or was it 4?
It was 4 seasons. Yeah.
4 seasons. It's a lot in 4 seasons compared to a lot of other shows,
and a lot of people to develop too. I mean, you talk about
Stargate had a third of the number of characters and double the amount of seasons, and I reckon it's probably got about the same amount of character dev. More
than double the amount of seasons. 10 seasons in SG1, and Atlantis. Richard Dean Anderson was in Atlantis and that too, But I mean, they basically went through no character development, did they? Between 10 seasons, and this Galactica's got such a massive cast, and they develop all of them all the way through the oh god. Now that I'm thinking about it, there's so many characters in that are like so vital,
living
to the story.
And breathing entities in that show. Yeah.
And then you take the Galactica as basically a living, breathing entity on top of that as well, and you've got the big one there. So if anybody hasn't watched it, it was a Sci-Fi Channel show, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think, it was back in 2014. No, earlier than that.
No,
late 2000s.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's definitely Sci-Fi Channel though.
Yeah, and they started it. Probably should have put some better notes on this, but why start being more thorough now?
We got like 10 minutes per 10 minutes to talk about each genre. I don't think we got time to get into the nitty gritty. 2004 to 2009.
Yeah, so amazing special effects and brilliant writing for that era. It's just it was a real trailblazer, I think, in creating the depth of character and everything going through there. So that was my big pick. I had The Fifth Element as well. I think everybody's seen The Fifth Element.
Yeah.
So it's just
and The Fifth Element, I originally put mine space opera as Fifth Element as well. And you could easily slot that into space comedy or sci-fi comedy as well. So Fifth Element's great.
And I think you need to talk about yours because I completely disagree.
Yeah, okay. So mine, and I went real offbeat for these two, right? So Jupiter Ascending was my pick. Directed and stolen by Lily and Lana Wachowski. I say they wrote it. I don't know if they actually wrote it, if they stole it like they did Matrix. And some big fucking names in it too. So Channing Tatum, Mila Kunis, Eddie Redmayne. There's a whole bunch of other supporting cast. And based on a novel. And based on a very well-written and well-received novel. I'm pretty sure it was part of a series of novels. And I put it here because whilst the story you get's quite narrow and focused on a couple of characters, it's set in a very well kind of constructed universe with a lot of shit going on, a lot of history behind the scenes driving the storyline. And I found that interesting. And then my honourable mention is very, very similar in Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. And again, it's pure science fiction in the sense that there's lots of sci-fi effects, all the special effects. There's lots of aliens and, creature effects. And again, Valerian is full of major names. Cara Delevingne, Clive Owen, Rihanna, Ethan Hawke, like Dane DeHaan. It's a huge list of stars. And both of those movies were designed to be launching platforms for a series of movies and just flopped badly. And they never made another one.
Yep.
But to me, they're the epitome of space opera. They're very much relationship based. I mean, Valerian, it was a romance between the two main characters. Jupiter Ascending, again, romance between the two main characters, set in a sci-fi universe. So they were my picks for that one.
I've never made it through Jupiter Ascending.
Oh, really?
I've started it 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, I can't do this. And then I think I caught the end like 30 minutes one night when it was on TV, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can just cut out all the rest of the crap I haven't seen in the middle and just watch the end and see what happens.
I liked the politics. It was lightweight, deep politics in the sense that you can tell there's a lot of gravity behind the major houses in a kind of a Dune or a Foundation style, but it doesn't delve too deeply into them in that first movie. And I just love Eddie Redmayne. He's such an offbeat looking dude who acts. Yeah. His voice is kind of a bit weird as well. Like, not weird, bad, just odd. And so anything he's in, I tend to thoroughly enjoy.
I couldn't stand Channing Tatum's
as a dog boy,
space elf. Space elf with magic boots.
He was a puppy dog, in a way that Barf wasn't in Spaceballs. He's modern Barf.
Yes, and in Valerian, I watched all of Valerian. I didn't mind it. I thought there were some really good spots in it, but he was just a creep.
Yeah, he was. He was
just
you're talking,
creeping on Cara Delevingne the entire movie.
Yeah, Dane
really off-putting
character. Yeah. And that felt like a Spielberg-esque sci-fi. It had that kind of clean film look about it. Like Spielberg has a very specific directorial style, which we should talk about in another episode sometime. It was directed by Luc Besson, so definitely not a Spielberg film, but it felt like it. He also helped write it. He's known for Fifth Element, so he wrote Fifth Element. He wrote Nikita. He wrote Lucy. Like, he's a well-known fucking screenplay writer and director. So,
and I would imagine the visual effects people are the same as the Fifth Element, because it very much feels very like Fifth Element when you're looking visually.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And I was thinking, because I've been watching a shit ton of Corridor Crew lately, we should start talking about some of the special effects houses in the movies that we're talking about sometimes. But yeah, that's for another episode. Should we move on to the next genre?
Sure. You jump in, because I had Expanse on my hard sci-fi column.
It very much fits both.
I'm going to leave it out and talk about the other movie I've got there, because I probably shouldn't talk The Expanse, because I've read the first 3 books and only watched half of the first season. So I don't think I'm qualified to talk about that.
Fair enough. But The Expanse is a great... Like, it's won as many awards and it's as popular as it is because it spans so many parts of science fiction. So it is very much hard sci-fi in the sense that it's a good example of, visually representing reality when it comes to like realistic Newtonian physics in science fiction. The ships have to flip over and accelerate away from where they're traveling towards because they have to slow down. The first season is very detective noir, set in space.
Yeah,
it's got
that's what I loved about.
Yeah, and it's also it parts of it borderline, like there's lots of politics. So you're in space opera land with those kinds of things and relationships and diplomats and all the rest of it. You had a lot of cyberpunk in some sections of that, I would say. And then in season 4, mainly, like it's primarily season 4. You get a lot of this. It's also quite space western, and that's the genre we're talking about. We should have started with that. They're on a new planet. They split into factions really quickly. There's quite a lot of sabotage and those types of things, and it is very spaghetti western. It's not traditional polished American western. It's quite spaghetti western. And that's why I said especially season 4. It felt very western. In the way that the start of Mandalorian did season 1.
Okay.
Very kind of similar.
Yeah,
and that's why I put that there.
I should get through the rest of it. I really enjoyed what I watched, and I really enjoyed the books that I've read too. So,
and I found The Expanse interesting because it reinvented itself season on season. The first season is a very well-contained, self-contained story. They are looking for the girl, and then the girl leads into the God particle, and the God particle is something that is very, very much carried through the rest of the seasons, but it takes center stage season 2, And then season 3, it's more about Mars politics. Season 4, it's about where the God particle led them, and another universe to explore. It reinvents itself continuously, and I found that very good in terms of maintaining interest and still having this through thread of Earth politics versus Mars and the Outer Rim.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because from what I haven't read the books for many years, and I've only ever read them once. The books do seem to change as they go as well. The first one, like you said, was very detective noir until you get to the final chapters. And by the way, we're doing full spoilers on everything. So
should have said that.
Yep, we should have mentioned that up front. But we're not holding back here. We're not, except for maybe my next movie in the hard sci-fi, because I don't want to spoil the twist for Pete if he hasn't seen it. The books very much reinvent themselves as well. You got that detective noir story with a big finish in the first book and the reveal of the alien life, and then the second book is very much a war movie. It's the whole last big battle. Oh God, is it the second or the third book? I don't remember now. But it's more of a war movie. You've got Earth and Mars actually have soldiers, boots on the ground, having battles together. So,
and I believe that's season 2 or 3. Season 2, very much boots on the ground. Well, they spend some time in the actual war. It's quite a cold war for a lot of it as well.
Yeah,
and posturing, but there is actually battles in it as well. And there's 6 seasons, sorry. So I don't have a solid recollection of each silo of the chapters, other than like season 4 specifically around Western. That's where it really stood out for me.
And I think
what was your pick?
The best sci-fi space Western of all time, and still I don't think a lot of people have seen it, is Firefly. Hands down, it's the
fucking
top,
bar,
the top seat for a space Western. It's fantastic characters, fantastic setting. It's post big war between the factions of the universe that it is. So you do get some of the higher political stuff come into it every now and then, but it's very much not about that. It's about the crew of Serenity and their heists and their jobs and just making their way through the galaxy.
Smuggling.
And as Mal says, they aim to misbehave. And that shows in every episode, and it's criminal that it only got 1 season, but did get a sort of a big space opera climax with the Serenity movie. And rounded out some of the character stories, or the big character story behind River and what was happening to her and why, and who created the Reavers and why the Reavers were part of this universe, which felt quite rushed in a storyline context, because they were only a small part of the TV series, but you could tell that Joss Whedon wanted to make that a big focus of what his overall plan was. So he just like, right, I'm just getting this one movie. We need to round out this story like we're not getting any more. And they didn't get any more.
Yeah.
Even though it's an absolute cult classic, Firefly.
Even though there's still fucking petitions going on in 2023, like 20 years later.
Yeah.
To bring it back.
Yeah. And I mean, it never will. It got an ongoing...
We get horrendous reboots of everything else. We've got steaming piles of shit that they call movies and TV series, and yet we can't reboot this. We got Willow, season 1, with a bunch of fucking teenagers spouting shite in a fantasy setting using modern language, and we can't have a reboot of this.
Yeah.
Life's not fair.
No. And I think it got a continuation in a comic book run.
Okay.
And I actually think it still does have. I think it still does have an ongoing comic book run. So, but it's just not the same. I mean, the delivery, and the characters playing off each other, the comedy and the emotion that they showed working with each other, and just made that show like just the Mal. And there's so many memes out there of Mal just making faces, not being able to say anything, and that you can't. Get that across in a comic book panel, not the way an actor can portray that.
And they really nailed casting on that show too.
Oh,
and
yeah,
and some of some of those actors and actresses were no names at the time and have since gone on to be big names. So
yeah, great. If you haven't watched Firefly, you're absolutely missing out. Get on it.
Totally agree.
Beers or
are you ready?
Yeah,
I could go either way. Cool. All right, I haven't tasted mine.
I've got the Boat Rocker Ramjet, which was aged in Starwood whiskey barrels.
Nice.
Did someone have this?
Beautiful can. I don't think so. Maybe.
Beautiful can, except for the several dents around the top of the rim where it's been poorly handled.
Let me have a quick look on Untapped to see if we've tried it.
I have to get the
It's a 2023 rebrew either way, but no.
We have not. This is the 22 version.
Oh, okay.
Barrel aged with Starwood Australian whiskey barrels. Use the light again. 11.1%. It's beautiful and warm and chocolatey and rounded roast characters. Very full mouthfeel. It's got not over the top sweetness, but a really nice balanced sweetness there with 11.1%. And just once again, the chocolate isn't overpowering anything else. It's all working in conjunction together. It's layered but not segmented layers. It's all quite cohesive in the flavor profile that it's giving. So very happy with that.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, the wood really comes across on the aroma with the sort of chocolate in the background. And I can feel my body warming. I've only had 2 sips and I can feel my blood vessels constricting. What happens when you warm? Do they expand or constrict?
They expand.
I can feel that. I'm getting
my pores are opening up.
Yeah, I'm getting warmth all through my I'm going to have to take my jacket off in a minute if this continues once I get halfway through that glass. It's coming down all through my forehead and cheeks and going down the back of my neck, which is very pleasant because it is a chilly Sunday evening here.
It is. Turned quite cool.
It did. What do you got?
Nice. I've got a cracker of a beer. It punches well above its weight. This is Beer Farm's Talk to the Palm.
I
don't know if
I've seen that one.
Is that focusing? I can't tell.
No.
There you go.
Tap the screen.
So tap the screen. So this is a toasted coconut, cocoa, and vanilla imperial stout at 8.5%. The reason I say it punches above its weight is it's got a nice booziness to it, like a pleasant booziness. It's not overplaying its hand, but it is punching above its weight, and it's shitloads of chocolate. It's a lot of chocolate, but you get just those acidic black malt notes in the mid palate, but it finishes super sweet, which is what you'd expect out of the vanilla.
You said vanilla and coconut.
Yes, yes. You do get some coconut, but it's quite nicely, because I'm not a big fan of coconut in stouts. I just think it can be overpowering. In this case, it's very understated in a really good way. So I'm going to be really interested to see how this opens up because it's a fucking cracker of a beer so far. I'm going to have to give that like a 4.75.
Yeah, I think that's mine as well.
Yeah, wow. Very nice. All right. Do you want to introduce the next subgenre while I get the notes sorted out so I don't forget what we drank?
Well, our next subgenre is hard sci-fi. So if for any of those playing at home out there that don't know what hard sci-fi is, it's the science fiction that is more science fact than science fiction. So as Pete was talking about The Expanse, it very much falls in this hard sci-fi category as well. And the Expanse is, I don't want to talk on our ones just yet, so just explaining the genre. The Expanse really plays into it, especially in the books. I don't know if this gets brought up verbally in the TV show, but in the books it actually talks about how the ships don't need to be streamlined construction because there's no air resistance in space. So they literally look like skyscrapers bricks on their sides. That's how they describe them.
Space bricks. Yeah.
Space bricks, yeah. So they don't have to have any aesthetics to them. They don't have to be aerodynamic. So they're function over form.
And I did a really poor I did a really poor demonstration, or I spoke about it really poorly, talking about the ship design in Mandalorian not too long ago, that they don't need aerodynamic surfaces because they're not generating lift from their wings. They're using ion jets. And that is very hard science fiction.
Yes. But Star Wars is a little bit different because, well, especially in the last few years where they've gone from Rogue
Aesthetics.
One onwards, we've also started to see the ships in atmosphere.
Yes. But those ships, I would presume, are using anti-grav.
Oh, yeah. Repulsor drives and
as opposed to needing to generate lift by pushing air over and under wings and creating a pressure dynamic. But
but you don't get a nice shiny chrome N1.
That's right. I was going to say Star Wars does lean very heavily into the aesthetic though, because they've got to sell Lego toys.
Mm-hmm.
No one wants to build a big cube.
Just a whole bunch of the same colored Lego brick.
And now you have a fucking Borg cube from Star Trek.
Yeah. Oh God, do they make a Lego Borg cube? I'm sure they do.
Not officially, but if you go to the Lego Bricks community, they make some pretty amazingly intricate Borg cube Lego kits. Yeah. Some of the third-party kits, man, are like mind-blowingly good. Like better than any kit that you can officially buy.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway. That's funny. I do know they have made some TV accurate Expanse ship models.
Yes, they have. I've looked into building a couple, but like the worst part is when you buy Lego in individual parts, it's fucking expensive. You're actually better off trying to find kits that have a lot of the parts that you need, and you might buy 2 or 3 kits and then using that as a pool of parts and then just buying the extra bits you need. Anyway, we don't have time to get off topic.
Yep. So hard sci-fi is form over function over form. It's using correct physics. And
it's an extrapolation of reality of how we understand the universe in practice. But you extrapolate to say, well, if we took current genetic engineering to its natural conclusion, then we end up in genomics. We end up in being able to blend or select designer babies. Where does that take us as a technology? How does it impact on society? You take one basic change, like, hey, break the speed of light in an engine. Where does that take us? But it's still extrapolated from reality.
Yes.
And it's one of my it's got to be one of my favorite subgenres. It's probably my favorite subgenre
when it's done right. Yeah.
Yes, because I love kind of the imagination of what the universe might actually contain for us in the future as a species, assuming we don't kill ourselves, which of course we will. So I might just jump in and lead straight into mine.
Yeah.
So this is where Foundation fits in for me. It's based on real. And this is the part that fucking Tom hates. It's based on concepts of real mathematics and also real sociology and psychology. But the basic premise that drives the start is, and this is why I've never understood why he hates it so much. It doesn't actually talk about the math that much, other than some guy ran a math competition to locate a super smart person in the universe. Like he put out a theory that had never been, or a proof that had never been proved, which is a real thing. In the FBI recruitment in the 60s and 70s, they would put up an almost impossible to solve cryptographic puzzle in newspapers and magazines and invite people to try and solve it. And if you could solve it, then you end up in the NSA or the CIA or the FBI. It's very, very similar as a mechanic to finding one of the core protagonists in the Foundation. He puts out this puzzle, this mathematics puzzle that hadn't been solved in like 500 years. And this girl in the middle of bumfuck nowhere on a planet that rejects science, like flat out as a religious planet, they reject any science teachings. You can't learn. There's no education. There's no universities. And she grabs some illegal documentation, and she's just got a brain for it. She solves this puzzle and ends up meeting this guy named Harry Seldon, who explains that he has invented a mathematical algorithm that allows him to predict the future in terms of the herd of humanity. It can't tell you what an individual's future is, but it can predict sociology and psychology in a way that, like, it very accurately models what humanity is likely to do. And unfortunately, his mathematics predicts the end, like the cataclysm, the end of society or civilization, the end of mankind. And that runs very directly counter to the current empire, who have a stranglehold on the universe. And when he says mankind's going to come to a cataclysm, he's basically saying empire is going to end. And that's what starts the series. But it's very much based on hard science fiction. And I love it because it's so grounded in predictable realities, or like you can extrapolate very easily, like genetics and being able to clone self. And, as we map the brain, we'll be able to download our minds into another cloned body so that we essentially exist forever. There's a lot of those types of elements, but woven into interesting social dynamics. And that's what I find interesting about it.
I think this is right up my alley, and I would really like to watch this, but it's on one of those damn streaming services that we don't have.
Apple TV, which you do. You've got one queued up, but you've got a short period of time. I think you said you had a 1 month free subscription or something.
Oh no, I think I've got like a 3 month or maybe a 6 month, because I've got the.
It's about choosing the right moment, Dan.
Yeah, I got it when I got my phone, but also got another one when I got the PS5. So I don't know whether
you'll have to use different email addresses.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I think no. I don't think the invite will expire, but I think you'll need to use a different account name when you to continue it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And the book, by the way, the book is very different. Foundation season 1 explores about 20% of the novel.
So Foundation is Arthur C. Clarke?
No, Isaac Asimov.
Isaac Asimov. I knew it was one of those science fiction. Fuckers. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the guy that spawned like Dune. This is the guy that spawned all sci-fi, basically, as we know it. Other than maybe some H.G. Wells. But yeah. But the book is not a long book, but it's such a huge. Each chapter or each grouping of chapters jumps 150 years in the future, and it tells a meta story. It doesn't tell an individual story about a bunch of people. It tells a meta story of humanity moving through time over the space of 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And the series is very much the same. Season 1 told a meta story. Season 2 is taken quite a different direction. So there's a really nice arc through each season within a broader story. Anyway, we need to stop talking about it because it'll take up the rest of the episode.
That's fine. My choice for hard sci-fi was a Sam Rockwell movie called Moon.
Which I still haven't seen. You've had this on my list. I watched everything you guys told me to watch last episode.
Yeah,
I've invested
hundreds
of hours. I watched what was The Old Guard as well, which I'd seen pop up, and it's like, it looks good, but it also looks like a pop out. It could be really shit or it could be really awesome. So I watched it and it was good.
It was good.
Anyway.
It was just one of the Old Guard was one of those movies that I really enjoyed when we watched it, but if I'm bored, I might go back and watch it again. But I probably won't go out of my way and do it. But I enjoyed it. Yeah. Moon is great. Like Sam Rockwell, just put a camera or several cameras in Sam Rockwell's house and just let him do his thing, because he's such a. We talk about quirky actors. He is one of those.
He's a quirky human, I think.
I think he's a quirky human. That's why I say just put cameras in his house and let's roll with it. Because basically that's what Moon is. It's Sam Rockwell being the quirky Sam Rockwell, but not over the top like it has been in some other movies. It's just there's some points in there where I don't think I know any other actor off the top of my head that could have pulled it off quite the way he does, but not necessarily in a comedic way. There's some very high drama parts in there as well. Some shocking parts in there that lead to or that come from the twist in the story. So Sam Rockwell's on a space station on the moon. He is the only one up there, and his time up there is coming to an end. He's talking to so basically the movie is just him. There's two other people in the home base that he talks to over a video call, and an AI computer that he talks to as well.
I may have seen it. I will have to rewatch it to see if I'll know within the first 10 minutes, because watching the trailer in the background,
I still don't want to spoil the twist, because it is a big twist there, and it's worth waiting for, and it's based on the space station to the best of my knowledge, is kind of like The Martian. From what I understand, a space station on the moon would be, and traveling out along the surface, and the suits that they would wear and everything like that, it is pretty accurate to my knowledge, which is very small. But it's very enjoyable. I don't think it's an overly long movie either. I think it's well under 2 hours. You're obviously looking that up right now. It's condensed.
I'm not. I've got the trailer running in the background. I think I have seen it, but I need to rewatch it.
I'm definitely going to rewatch it as well. It's one that just doesn't get talked about enough, and it's a fantastic movie. Never pops up on any streaming services that I've seen. I'm sure it is probably there if you went looking for it across the board, but it's a very, very enjoyable movie, and he's just fantastic, and just holds your attention for the entire
an hour
length
40.
Of the movie. Yeah,
hour 40.
Yeah, so an easily consumable movie.
Yeah. There is one, and we're not going to talk about the actual plot, but there is one film I wanted to mention on the banner of hard sci-fi, because it is recognized by scientists as being the most accurate science fiction depiction of space that we've ever put on screen, and that's The Martian. And they spent a shitload of money. If you watch any of the behind-the-scenes documentaries on the film, they spent a shitload of money on consultants from NASA and those types of organizations to make sure that it was as close to real physics as they could possibly get. Interstellar did some cool stuff in a similar kind of vein, but like you think about the Martian scenes where they're trying to dock with the space station towards the end, and the space station's spinning so furiously. And then he doesn't make a perfect seal, and he essentially obliterates the space station. That is very much based on real physics. There's a lot of cool stuff in that film that was based on real physics. That was physical reality became one of the major characters in that show in a few places, and I thought that was really interesting. Quite well done. Science fantasy. So, as an introduction to a genre, this is to me, this is Space Wizards. This is very much Star Wars. This is anything that combines the themes and tropes from both science fiction and high fantasy, like magic and aliens, those sorts of things. That's science fantasy, and it is its own subgenre. It's probably a genre that's talked more about in books than it is in movies and TV shows, because it doesn't really. You've really got to be careful to make it hit right, if that makes sense on screen. One I've listed is Ready Player One. Now, Ready Player One fits into a lot of categories here. It's a dystopian future set 30 years in the future after mankind essentially annihilated itself in terms of social breakdown because of capitalism, and everyone tries to escape into a video game, and yet at the same time, it's very much a nerd-out film too. But it's also kind of hard sci-fi in the sense that they very much extrapolated video game technology and VR technology as the premise of the game of the movie. Yeah. But
I will invest in VR when we get to that level. I'll probably be fucking 90 and we'll be on to the
we'll be on a Zimmer frame on
VR 10. But that's where we need to incorporate the movie Surrogates into this. So we can be decrepit and old in our little chair that we're injecting
some
our minds into.
18-year-old kids living inside that old body while we're playing video games with his.
Yeah.
That was Surrogates, wasn't it?
Surrogates was Bruce Willis. No, that was Gamer.
I think I'm thinking of Existence, where you can transfer your. No, maybe it's not. There was a movie where you could transfer your mind into someone else's body, and so they had like the personal trainer would transfer into your old middle-aged body in a suit to work out while you go and continue working in his body.
Oh no, I haven't seen whatever that is. No, Surrogates is Bruce Willis, and everybody stays home, and they have a younger version of themselves, the surrogate, that goes out and does all the like work. all sports are like football's turned into. It doesn't get brought up in the movie, but apparently it's in the book that like American football now is like a deadly combat sport where they all play through their surrogates
because there's no risk.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure I've seen it, but I'm going to watch the fuck out of that after this because that's I got an itch for that. So look, Sorry, go ahead.
No, you would have to like surrogate your old decrepit body into a younger version body to then plug into your Ready Player One, so you can do all the physical actions,
all the
in
running
the real
around
world.
and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I put it under science fantasy first because it fits into so many categories, and I'd already had really good picks for those. But also because the main premise of the film is very much about the magic of video games, and it's it's probably a bit of a stretch on the subgenre's definition, but it got close enough that I put it down. I think we'll have to go to the video ref for this one. I think Tom weighing in, going, "The fuck, Pete." Do you want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, I didn't really have one under this. It did stump me.
Your two are the ones that came immediately to mind for me.
What's that? Sorry. Oh, no. For in the science fantasy. So right. I didn't have one specifically for that. But yes, the next one is SciFi Horror. And I had a few going through my mind with these ones, but it was more their endings of their movies were more in the sci-fi element, but the body of the movie wasn't a sci-fi. It was kind of set in modern times, and the end was a bit of a twist on it in the sort of the cosmic horror genre, but not in this science fiction. And it's interesting because obviously sci-fi can cover a lot of different. We could have a sci-fi
concepts and themes, and
exactly. So we could have a sci-fi movie that's set today in this modern world, but it could still have elements there that would be classified science fiction.
Well,
but
you would almost argue that a lot of Marvel is, right?
Definitely.
Iron Man concepts are all
definitely. That's a really good example. But we both, when we wrote our things on this list, definitely went to the future science fiction side of things, not that Marvel
modern sci-fi,
modern sci-fi or current sci-fi. So within the horror side of things, I went Event Horizon and Sunshine, which are two fairly similar movies that both came out roughly the same time as well, which is coincidence. Funny how those sort of things, kind of like the Prestige and the other magic sleight of hand movie that came out at the same time. That were both set in like the 20s.
Now You See Me?
No. They were both set in like the 1920s. The Prestige has got then you've got the one, The Illusionist. What's his damn name? I'm having a blank today. The American History X, Edward Norton in The Illusionist, and then The Prestige has Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale. They were both kind of the same time period that came out, like weeks or months apart, like in the same year kind of thing. So it's funny how these things kind of work. Now that I've gone on that huge rant, Event Horizon and Sunshine were probably separated by a fucking decade. I don't know.
Event Horizon was 97 and Sunshine, I think, was 2007. 10 years.
No, 10 years. So, yeah, I'm completely talking out of my ass here.
Cillian Murphy must have been fucking young in Sunshine.
He must have been, because he's been around a while now. I think that, for me, that's the first time I really saw him in something and really stood out as an actor. Anyway, these are both cosmic horror movies. Ultimately, in the end, they're cosmic horror. Event Horizon probably more than Sunshine, but Sunshine still has those kind of cosmic horror, kind of a little bit of sort of time-bending elements when it gets to the end and they get close to the sun.
But I don't know if that's the right definition for horror anyway. I think they're both I don't disagree with your picks, but I think horror is also, as a subgenre, is defined by its tension building. You don't know what's going to happen next. You've got these ominous feelings. So you know that it's building up to something bad, but you're not sure what it is. Like, to me, that's horror. There's a lot of tension in it.
But that's both these movies are very much that.
Yes, yeah.
Much that.
I'm just kind of defining the genre, or I'm just expanding the definition of the genre a little bit, or describing it a bit more.
Yeah, so I mean, Event Horizon, they get a distress call from the Event Horizon ship, which has a new gravity drive on it, which folds space time, and they eventually find out that it's actually punched the wall into a hellish dimension, and the Event Horizon, in some way, the ship has become sentient, and it really leads into those Lovecraftian ideas of really a spiral into madness for anybody that comes in contact with it. God, Sam. I'm going to say Sam Worthington, but it's not Sam Worthington. The Kiwi guy.
Sam Neill.
Sam Neill, that's him. Sam Neill is the main antagonist at the back end of the Event Horizon movie. Dr. Weir, I think his name is, because it comes up and he has I only remember that because
that would be a deep cut for me to try and remember, mate.
Well, it's a real sticking point, and it comes up quite often because he's a Kiwi actor, but in the movie they put an Aussie patch on his shoulder. So
just another fuck you.
Yeah, it's one of those.
You can have Russell Crowe back, but we're taking Sam Neill.
Yeah, we're taking Sam Neill, exactly. And it really is a delve into madness for these two crews that get entwined with the Event Horizon that's gone into this hellish dimension. It's sci-fi Hellraiser is kind of what it comes down to in the end, because Hellraiser is kind of the same thing with the Coenobites and things like that. Yep. And Sunshine has a fantastic, you think it's going to be a semi-hard, or it is kind of a semi-hard sci-fi because the sun is dying and they've lost contact with Icarus 1, which was the first ship with the payload of nukes to go to the sun to try and reignite it.
Yeah.
And then the second Icarus 2 goes out and they once again get a distress call from Icarus 1 when they're halfway to the sun to try and reignite it, and they decide to make a detour, and they find that the captains of both ships end up delving into madness, and because they've spent too long on the observation decks staring at the sun as they get closer, and it's the captain from the Icarus 1 actually talks about the sun being a god, which goes very much back into many historical civilizations, because the sun was the life giver and everything like that. So it's really good to see something that primal thing that twings in their mind when they're sitting on the observation deck staring at this burning ball as they get closer and closer and going, well, it's a god, and it just gets into their brain and twists and warps them, and that it is very much a delve into horror, madness as well. And people, it's all about, and I guess both are, it's about isolation and confronting your fears that come up. And the Buddhists talk about this too, about the deep meditation is confronting the horrors within your own mind. And this is really what happens to these crews, whether it's visually with Event Horizon where they see hallucinations, or more sort of mental stuff that comes through from Sunshine side of it. And it deals with that isolation, being literally for Sunshine on a one-way mission to reignite the sun to save your entire race and your planet, and how that plays on the psyche of
the
people.
Pressure. Yeah. And
it's
interesting because in various parts, and you'll notice that Doctor Who isn't on this list anywhere, even though it fits into quite a few of these categories, especially time travel. There are episodes that cover both Event Horizon and Sunshine. Like there's a Doctor Who episode where they're near a sun and they scoop up some material to make their ship engines continue to work, and they inadvertently scoop up a sun creature, like a sentience, an alien sentience made out of solar material, and it starts infecting the minds, and it basically takes over the brains of the people, and it's trying to, like, they don't know. It's a horror episode because it's going around fucking killing the rest of the crew, but in reality, it's just trying to let itself out of the fuel tanks that it's been kidnapped in, essentially. And it reminded me so much of like the psychological shit that's going on in Sunshine, but told in a slightly different way, and obviously for a different root cause. But there is a sentience behind the sun.
Yes. So, and I mean, you talk about Doctor Who and the sun and old sun gods. That's that amazing speech that Matt Smith makes to the massive sun god. I've watched the YouTube clip of that speech so many times. It's an amazing speech where the sun god absorbs the memories of the people to keep itself flowing, and he's there, and he makes that beautiful speech about, I've seen things you can't even imagine. Take me, take it all. You basically you'll fucking choke on it, you bastard.
Yeah, basically. That's a great episode, and it's an underrated episode.
Oh, yeah.
There's some other great speeches like that. David Tennant did one with the devil, and that does talk about, and that's where you meet the Ood, who are also a creepy as fuck alien species. But that, to me, is kind of similar to Event Horizon 2. It's told in a different way, but again, it punches a hole into our tribal reality or our tribal worship and our concepts of the devil and evil and those sorts of things. And Event Horizon is very much in that same kind of boat.
Both really do. Yeah, both actually speak to that as well. So, and I disagree with your horror pick, but let's
my horror pick's Pitch Black, the very first Riddick film. And the reason I picked it, and I don't think, like, I know there's monsters in it, so you could easily put this in the monster, like the science fiction monster category, but I put it in the horror category because, by and large, whilst the monsters do make an appearance towards the end, in maybe the last quarter of the film,
a big appearance.
Yeah, a big appearance, yes. But most of the Pitch Black movie was tension building. It was a lot of, if we don't keep moving, it's going to come and get us. And a lot of it's, what is that thing on the horizon? Yeah, well, that too. But what is that? No. We're talking the first film where Riddick's not a bad guy. He's helping everybody.
No, Riddick is the bad guy in Pitch Black. He's the criminal that they're transporting.
I know.
They chain him up and lock him up and go, no, he is a serial killer.
They treat him, yeah, he is a serial killer. They treat him, but he ends up saving the last two people.
One. He only saves Jack in the end.
Right. But he tries to save more than one.
Yeah.
But a lot of that movie was tension building, and that's why I put it in the horror.
He tries to save Jack and the main female lady who's the Aussie. The Aussie lady, but she gets torn apart like right at the ramp of the escape ship.
Yeah. So Radha Mitchell, is that her?
Yeah, that'll be her. Yeah.
I didn't put that. I think it's a horror because a lot of it's about tension. A lot of it is about implied consequences rather than actual graphic violence. And yes, you get the monster payoff at the end, and that's cool. But I very much think that's a horror film. In the same way that Alien is a horror film, as opposed to Aliens, the sequel, is very much a monster.
It's an action movie. Well, monster movie.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll move.
Yeah, okay.
You have every right to disagree. That's fine. That's fine. Do you want to move on to the next one?
Yes. Cool. I didn't. We'll throw to yours first. We're on to sci-fi time travels. I didn't even think of this one. And is it a time travel movie, or is it a?
It's a Looper
distorted
kind of
reality movie.
But you put Looper in.
But Looper has a specific time travel aspect to it.
Yeah, so my pick for time travel was Edge of Tomorrow, and that's kind of a science fiction Groundhog's Day film.
Yeah,
but I put it in as time travel because the bug or the alien that is creating the effect is very much described as looping through time to try and find a path out of try and find a solution. It is warping time.
I was just talking semantics. More than
okay.
Being difficult for the sake of being difficult.
There's a lot of movies that have told this kind of story where you keep waking up and you get another chance to do the day and you don't know. I can't remember what was the action comedy film where he kept waking up and he had to kill a bunch of dudes that were after him. And it was very much portrayed as a video game. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Boss Level was another example of this style of story, as is Groundhog Day. And I'm sure that wasn't original either. But
Happy Death Day.
Happy Death Day, yeah. I can deep cut there. But to me, Edge of Tomorrow is a very well conceived war science fiction film, and in retrospect, war isn't its own genre that we could have covered separately. But it has a lot of cool consequences to time travel, and you go through all of the typical. Yeah, I've already done this, and shoot here, duck there. Everybody else is impressed by the amazing moves, but it's only because it's all muscle memory because they've done it so many times. But at the same time, I found it quite a engaging movie about looping through time. And it's got Tom Cruise in it, and I didn't vomit. So, I mean, that's impressive by itself.
It's one of those, like, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done. I love the aesthetics of it. I love Tom Cruise. I love Emily Blunt in it, and then all the supporting cast that's in there as well, which are
She plays
very
a good badass.
Yeah, definitely. And you feel for him every time he dies, especially on the battlefield, because so many of those are horrific deaths that would like it could then
it would tear your psyche apart.
That's
reality.
what I was about to say. It could so easily have been like just put in the horror aspect of it, where if you just had him slowly descending into madness every time he gets dismembered or like drops out of the drop ship and he dies, like splatters at one point and just continually blown up by grenades, and it's like horrible things. And obviously that's not the way they wanted to take the movie, but you could quite easily talk about the trauma that this would put on somebody, rather than getting to the point where he becomes the hero in the end.
Yeah.
He could just completely fucking break them till they just like a drooling mess every time they
just
wake
explore
up.
How dark you can get away with in a film today. What were your picks?
So time travel one, and I've spoken about this many times on the podcast over the years, and I still urge you, if you have not gone and seen it or found it somewhere, Predestination.
Yeah, it is fucking brilliant.
One of the best, smartest, cleverest, slightly disturbing movies.
It's more than slightly disturbing.
Yeah, I didn't want to go too far to like put people off either.
Well,
it's uncomfortable as well. It's there's so much to it that you've seen it.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Oh God, do we just spoil it? Because this is kind of one of those movies that really, if people haven't seen it, I really want people to see it.
Yeah, I don't think we should spoil it. I don't think we should spoil it.
I think it's such a rare movie that I think it's one of those ones that I don't think we should.
Yeah,
same as Moon. Yeah,
you could have easily put, and I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier. You could have put 12 Monkeys in here as well.
Oh, it was one of my other ones on the list there.
Very similar to Predestination in the sense that, and very different in lots of ways, but similar in that it is very discordant. Something feels heavy and awkward and off throughout the whole film until the end, when you figure out why. And the payoff is kind of similar too, to be honest.
It is
the twist.
Very similar. Yeah, very similar. Now that you point that out, it's also one of those ones that has when you get to the end, it's quite complex in what it was trying to say, but it doesn't treat the audience like idiots by talking like actually going, oh yeah, well X, Y, Z. It just goes. You get to the end and you go, oh my fucking God. Like, what the actual fuck? Like it's just, I cannot speak more highly of Predestination. It is probably one of the highest quality films I've ever seen in my life, and original.
It's very, it's very detective noir stylistically.
Yes. Yeah. It's very character driven.
Yes. It reminds me, like, I love a good paradox film, and that is very much a time travel paradox film.
Yes,
as is the next one, actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, Looper as well. I mean, I just wanted to throw that in there because I didn't know whether we were going to spoil Predestination, so I just wanted to have one that we could spoil. But I think we've spoken enough about Predestination as well. So Looper, it's another great film. It's just it's just good. I mean, Emily Blunt again. Just something about time travel movies.
but Looper's also a testament to Joseph Gordon-Levitt's effort and investment into playing a character. The amount of time that he spent trying to mirror Bruce Willis's natural mannerisms is staggeringly, like the payoff is so obvious and visible. It's just incredible.
It definitely is. It's just it's such a shame that he seems to have disappeared a little bit. Whether or not he just doesn't want to deal with the Hollywood machine, because he went to doing a lot of, I guess after Dark Knight Rises, he really went to do a lot more indie movies. And he's done some really good indie movies as well. Even one early in his career, it must have been pre-Looper.
You're right, he has slowed down, but he's not he's not down and out. Like, he's making a couple of movies a year.
Oh, okay. I'll have to have a look.
He was in Knives Out. Then he was in Star Wars Visions. I'm skipping
Fucking
a bunch.
Knives Out, really?
He was Detective Hard Rock. He was the voice of Detective Hard Rock. He was a voice in Star Wars Visions.
Whoa. Knives Out?
Yeah. He's
what do you
credited.
mean he was the voice of someone?
He was credited as the. I'm just trying to find it again because it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I'm looking at the right guy. Is credited as having credited against Knives Out as Detective Hard Rock's voice.
There must be a phone call or something.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
He's
I don't have
not
more
in it
information
to my memory.
Don't know. Oh no, he was also the voice of Jiminy Cricket and Pinocchio last year.
Yeah, but voices, not really taking advantage of his like acting chops.
He's in he was been in a couple of things, but he's in a shitload coming up. I don't know what they are.
Okay.
White Knight, Providence, Killer Heat, Beverly Hills Cop, Wingmen, K-Troop. Some of those might be cartoons. Some of them might be kids' films. I don't know. Anyway.
So Looper, just a quick lowdown on Looper if people haven't seen it. It's a time travel where there's guys in the past that are professional hitmen that are given a time and a place to be somewhere. And then they basically go to a cornfield, lay down a mat. When somebody pops through the time portal, they shoot them with a blunderbuss, and they give them the blunderbuss because you can't mess with the blunderbuss.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. And they're the hitmen for the future mob because the mob is dropping people back in time. And a whole bunch of stuff happens. And in the end, you find out that basically when it comes to their retirement in the future, they end up taking themselves out.
Yeah.
They get sent back to close their loop. Which is why it's called Looper.
Why it's called Looper. Yeah.
And
I love that. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays the same character as Bruce Willis, which is why I said before he studied Bruce Willis's natural mannerisms, because when they whenever Joseph Gordon-Levitt is visibly Bruce Willis in this film. Even when Bruce Willis isn't on screen, like you can tell it's him. Does a fantastic job.
Holds his mouth, just like has those mannerisms, delivers his lines, stands,
the cadence
walks.
of his voice. Yeah.
Brilliant. Really great job.
All right, moving on to the next subgenre, which is SciFi monster films. And there's so many to pick from. We steered clear of Aliens, of all the Aliens franchises, and Predators, I suppose.
Yeah.
What was your one?
My Gantz.
I don't know this one.
So every now and then there's a guy I follow on YouTube, and he just shows you the best sci-fi stuff that's coming up on Netflix or horror movies, or it's about a 25-minute video, and he kind of runs through 20 movies from new, old, things that are just coming into the Netflix playlist. And this is based on a Japanese anime. Now, I watched this a long time ago, so I'm not gonna go right into what this is about. But basically, it's a group of people that wake up in a room because they've died in the world somewhere, and they have to go out and fight monsters in Tokyo. And they're given these powered suits and weapons to go out, and they start at 0 level basically. And if you hit 100 points, you can get a teammate revived, you can get released from the game, you can get upgraded weapons to go into the next cycle. And Corridor Crew. This is where I heard about it. Corridor Crew did a break because it's a fully animated movie. It's a fully CG animated movie, and they did a breakdown of the monsters and some things that happen in the movie to the bigger monsters and the fight scenes. And so I went there and watched it afterwards because it looked pretty cool. And there's not a huge amount of story to it. There's nothing surprising that happens to it, but the animation and the creature design and the fight scene design, it's just something that the Japanese just have. Like it's
screenshot. The screenshot on IMDb reminds me of the graphic style of the Final Fantasy movie, the 3D animated Final Fantasy movie.
The Spirits Within. Within? Yeah.
Yes. Which is, I still say, is a fucking great film.
Oh, I mean, it was a huge milestone in CG animation.
3D animation,
Gantz O GANTZ:0 or 0.
And I'm so
not
disappointed
sure.
that I don't know if you can see the like if you're looking at the poster, but there's some so it's all in Japanese other than Gantz O, and I recognize the 3 hiragana characters on the left, but there's a kanji right in the middle, so I can't pronounce what the word is. Otherwise, I would be able to tell you what it says. But
probably Gantzo.
No, it's not, because it's Kito something Ru. But yeah, anyway, carry on.
But it's well worth a watch. I mean, it's really, you could watch it without subtitles and you'd understand the story. Like, there's that little story to it. It's all about
it's all visual effects.
These 4 or 5 people going out, and there's separate teams. Like, they're not the only team out there fighting monsters. Actually, they're in Osaka, not Tokyo. I stand corrected. Just going out and fighting these weird warped creatures, and it's just fun. Like, it's just to put it on and forget and just watch the visual spectacle.
There's a bunch of Gantz movies, actually. So there's Gantz Perfect Answer, Gantz self-titled. It's all written by the same people, by the look of it.
I'm going to have to go and see if are they.
It looks like a live
CG
action
animated.
Well, one of them, Gantz 2010, is a live action film. So, after trying to rescue a man on the subway tracks, 2 teens wake up in a room dominated by a mysterious black sphere that sends them to hunt down and kill aliens hiding on Earth. Yep,
that's it. So the Gantz is the black orb, and when people die in the world, this is where they go to partake in the game.
So they've made a live action film as well.
I wonder if that was before or after this.
Hiroya Oku is a writer that seems to be like a through line through it all.
Okay. Yeah. That'd be interesting. Okay. I'm going to have to look that up myself now.
Yeah, cool.
And I had originally put down your monster movie pick as well.
Which is Starship Troopers. Can't go past it. Fucking bugs. And you could easily put this in the comedy subgenre as well, but yeah, it's a fucking creature feature. Like, even the way that they express that there are different types of bugs, and and they go through like almost the combat profile of each in various parts of the film. I did have an honourable mention of Cloverfield, and I think that's an underrated creature feature sci-fi.
See, this is what is
sci-fi though.
That's exactly what I was talking about before. Is it or isn't? Is it just a monster movie because it's just set in modern day? With
You're probably right. It is
involved.
Yeah, and is it a kaiju? Is that what they're collectively called? The Godzillas?
Kind of, yeah, they're kaiju. Yeah.
Yeah, because he is very much supposed to be the big alien, the big bad in Cloverfield's clearly supposed to be a Godzilla type character.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah,
it's just interesting because a lot of people might just throw monster movies in sci-fi because they're outrageous. They're they're science fiction.
Yeah.
But I mean,
true. True. You could also put any kind of alien monster mash movie in this category as well. Yeah. Probably more realistic than Cloverfield in terms of fitting into the genre. The next genre, Cyberpunk, so describes a dystopian future combining kind of high technology and low life or social breakdown. I really like that definition because it is a through line. Because I found it hard to describe Cyberpunk. Like, I know what it is, and I know what it is when I see it, but actually describing it to somebody, I actually felt I had to sit there and think about it. So I did some Googling, and I really like that definition. You get like the scum, but in a futuristic, high-tech environment.
And a real separation of class as well is part of Cyberpunk. So the corporations run everything, and the people are just left to fend for themselves below a certain caste, the corporate level,
yeah, which is how you end up with Children of Men style. That's very much Cyberpunk. It's also usually quite gritty, and film noir lends itself quite well. Which the classic is Blade Runner. That is the Cyberpunk example. Mm-hmm. I was impressed because I saw you put in the same movie as I did, or the same series as I did. I was impressed by the one that you changed it to, because that's another fucking fantastic example. So I think you can go first on this one.
So I put in Upgrade, which I need to do some quick Googling and find out the Aussie guy that are you looking it up?
I am.
While I talk? Good. Thank you.
Yep.
So Upgrade is made by the non-James Wan side of
Lee Winnell.
Lee Winnell, that's him. So it was a small indie movie.
James Wan is the Aussie, though. That's the problem with
Isn't Lee
statement.
Winnell not the Aussie? I thought Lee Winnell's Aussie too, isn't he?
I don't know, but I'm pretty certain James Wan ended up. Yeah, so Lee Winnell grew up in Melbourne.
Yeah. I think that they both are. Just James Wan's moved on to do different things.
Yeah, he's an Australian film producer, screenwriter, and film director.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Lee Winnell did this movie back. It can't be that long ago. Got to be
2018.
I was going to say 17. Yep. And it's set in the classic dystopian cyberpunk future. It was made in Australia. Good on you, Lee Winnell. And it has those cyberpunk elements of the corporations and the higher ups being able to control the lower caste, which comes very much into the Upgrade side of it. It has the police are fairly totalitarian. They're not protecting the people; they're very much protecting the corporations. And this is the through line for Upgrade. The main guy's character, the home brand Tom Hardy. I've said that about this guy so many times. Discount Tom Hardy. I've said this about him so many times.
You're talking about Logan Marshall Green?
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. It's so unfair that I call him Discount Tom Hardy, but you put them next to each other and your average person's not going to tell the difference.
And until they start eating their favorite meal.
Yeah.
Didn't Tom Hardy get in trouble for biting people or eating people? I'm sure there was some sort of cannibalistic story in there.
I'm sure there's not. Tom Hardy's like the golden child.
Who am I thinking of then? Anyway, carry on.
Anyway, so the main character, I haven't looked up any names of this movie, and this 11% beer is really kicking in at this stage, so I'm going to babble for the next couple of minutes. The main character gets an upgrade. Surprise, surprise. He gets an AI put in. He becomes a quadriplegic and gets an upgraded AI put at the top of his spinal column that can actually take control of his body and make him do all the fight scenes and the action and everything that's required of him in the movie. And
it's very Matrix-esque.
It is, but the filming style is amazing. Some of the fight scenes is done on the camera that is attached to the person doing the action. So they're like the personal cam that's like attached by a boom, the GoPro. So he's down at one stage and like he's lying down and he lets the AI take over and the camera comes up with him as he stands upright and then goes through all of his actions as he goes past his vertical point during the fight scenes. I'm describing this really badly and shit, but it's an amazing movie.
I know what you're talking about.
Good. It's done on such a low budget and for such a really good movie. I found it did fall down when the end was too predictable. I really would have preferred them to
just another layer of complexity.
Yes, just rather than
the conspiracy
selling out for the ending to be something basic for the masses. You've made this great movie that is just visually beautiful, acted amazingly for the low budget, and I'm sure they had it on a time constraint as well.
Oh,
and
yeah, for sure.
It felt like the end was a bit too cheap, where the AI was going to take over his whole body. And I'm spoiling this now, by the way, everybody, but you did get warned. The AI takes over his body and he gets the choice to be part of that or whether the AI will let him live out his ideal life within his own mind. So that's
it got pretty fucking dark at the end too.
Yes,
it was. It definitely fits the category. And it was Armie Hammer I was thinking of. The cannibal.
Oh yeah, no, Armie Hammer's
very different.
Armie Hammer's in some terrible
all kinds of trouble. Yeah. Anyway,
and Pete, Altered Carbon. It's like one of the best cyberpunk renditions. It's on par that season 1 with Blade Runner in my opinion.
I agree. Which is why it was so disappointing to me that it changed stylistically so much for season 2, and it almost, whilst there was definitely like the the hotel, some of the hotel sequences in season 2 were kind of reminiscent. It never reached anywhere near season 1 in terms of its links back to like Victorian age writing, which was its kind of link to upper class in the lower class cyberpunk. It's gritty, lots of mob kind of infighting, but in a science fiction universe. I can't help but think if season 2 had been closer to season 1 in terms of style, that it would have continued.
Yeah,
I feel like it got cancelled because it lost its way. And I want to say Kovacs, who's the actor that plays Joel Kinnaman?
Joel Kinnaman, yeah.
If he'd stayed on, I reckon that series would have continued as well.
But you can't.
I know.
That's the whole idea of the sleeves. And
I get it.
When we were rolling through the first season and you got to the end of the first season and Takeshi Kovacs gives up the sleeve that he was in, because the bodies are called sleeves, and they change out their
their stacks.
Stacks. They change out their stacks to swap minds between bodies and everything. And you knew it was going to be a new actor in season 2. And I was like, this is an amazing premise. Like, if they nail this,
it's like Doctor Who, but not.
That's exactly it. I mean, and I don't dislike Anthony Mackie. I like Anthony Mackie, but he
shut the bed on this one.
He did definitely. Like,
he was
Joel
just wooden all the way through.
He definitely was, and Joel Kinnaman was a broken man through that whole thing. Like, he just, from episode 1 where he wakes up right to the very end where he gives up the sleeve and says goodbye to the detective that he's actually formed this bond with, to continue on where he's going next with his life and going to find his love and his sister and everything going forward. It's like, he portrayed Takeshi Kovacs in such a broken man kind of way. And then it felt like they said to Anthony Mackie, no, just be cocky and headshaw and everything over the top. And you didn't see that character continue through.
Yeah, I agree. He hasn't been in much since. Like, he's been in stuff. He's in one movie a year, but he's also a main character in the For All Mankind alternate history sci-fi show on Apple Plus or Apple TV Plus. So I might have to check it out, because I've not seen it, and I love Joel Kinnaman. He's such a good actor. But just it's a nice segue, because it is another science fiction show that just happens to be another science fiction show. So For All Mankind, I've not watched it, but I understand the premise. It's an alternate version of history. The Soviet Union beats the US to the moon, and that's kind of the point of discontinuity from reality. And so we live in a different world as a result of the Russians beating the Americans, and it totally changing society, because it really did galvanize society, that race to the moon.
Kind of the Russian version of Man of the High Castle, which is if the Germans won World War II.
Yes, yeah. Very much. Should we talk about our...
Maybe alternate histories need to be on the list somewhere.
Shall we talk about our last subgenre?
We definitely do, because I think we're getting to the end of our time and I really need to pee.
Okay.
Comedy. I think we both picked classic ones here.
Yeah.
You going?
So, yeah. So I picked Spaceballs. Can't go past a good Mel Brooks film. And with all the right actors in it too. And I laugh even thinking about some of the shit that goes on in that film.
There's no way
Schwartz is as big as
mine. There's no way they could get away with that shit these days. Absolutely
not.
Absolutely not.
Rick Moranis from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids playing Dark Helmet. Mel Brooks is actually in it. Barf by John Candy, so he's the ripoff of Chewbacca. Bill Pullman playing Lone Star, the ripoff of Han Solo. It's a complete piss take of Star Wars, and done in such a great fucking fun, witty way. And Michael Winslow. If you ever watched any of the...
he's the radar operator.
Yeah. If you loved Police Academy and the sound effects he makes in that, you'll love this as well. So that's a fucking classic. And I had an honourable mention of Free Guy, which I thought was a very funny, but it's not quite a comedy because it's quite serious as well, science fiction film. Yeah.
And
what was yours?
Funny, we're talking. We both put the big franchise ripoffs here. Yours with obviously Spaceballs and Star Wars, and I put Galaxy Quest, which is just a ripoff.
To infinity? No, that what was the fucking call? Oh, I shouldn't have opened my mouth.
No, it's going to bug me now. But I mean, all-star cast: Sigourney Weaver, Tim Allen,
Alan Rickman.
It's just a classic movie, and it holds up so well, and it speaks to so much of the culture that was kind of just emerging at the time that they made it, with the Comic-Cons and the panels of the TV shows and the movies, and the cast going there to the Comic-Cons and being berated and not just berated, but that probably happens more these days than anything else.
Beaten up.
They're being championed by the attendees and getting asked ridiculous questions about. Oh God, we went to see the cast of Stargate SG-1 one time, and somebody asked Richard Dean Anderson something specific about an episode and how would have he reacted as Richard Dean Anderson to this character that to this situation that his character got put in, and he kind of just sat there for a second, and then he went and thumped his head on the microphone and just snored, and it was like he was just an actor.
Clearly, it's not the first time that he's done that.
Yes, obviously not. But he just wanted to go there and talk about his experience, and he was an actor that. Yes, everybody wanted him to be invested into the character and the world that he was in, but he wasn't. He was just an actor getting a paycheck and these sort of things. And that very much showed. But he was still super interesting to listen to. Like, he had a lot to say.
The irony there, though, is it played into Richard Dean Anderson's character in SG-1. He was the laissez-faire, I'm fucking here to look cool, kill some dudes, and then fuck the women. That's kind of the whole persona.
Yes, and he was the Kirk of SG-1. Yes,
and he was the Kurt Russell of SG-1.
Yeah,
because that is very much the character and the actor, right, from the original Stargate. So
and the
never give up, never surrender,
never give up, never surrender. That's it, because they were so sick of it, and
never give up.
I mean, there's a lot of things you can go to for after that, but Galaxy Quest is just. I'm sure most people have seen it, but it's just another one that you can just put on and just chuckle at, because it's probably more relevant today than what it was when it was done. So it's the old burnt out actors and just reliving their heyday.
Recycling, yeah.
But not wanting to relive their heyday, but they have to for the paycheck and just to continue the lifestyle that they've decided to live on. And it just throws them in this real life sci-fi world where it was all based on Galaxy Quest, so the TV show and the movie. So another great comedy movie along with Spaceballs, just good fun. And you probably wouldn't get away with some scenes in Galaxy Quest these days either, but let's hope someone's got the guts to make them these days.
Yeah, can't take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
Your honourable mention is one. I'm going to just spill the beans. So it's the Orville. This has come up a few times, and I'm sure I've seen it. I've seen the first 2 or 3 episodes, maybe 3 or 4 times over to try and get into the series, and it just never hooks me enough. There's always something else to watch. But it's a typical Seth MacFarlane comedy set in space. Yep. And it does take the piss out of all the normal Star Trek tropes.
And the reason I like it so much is, one, I like Seth MacFarlane and his dry humor, his dry, witty humor, but it reminds me so much of Space Quest games. And I just want the janitor on the Orville to be called Roger Wilco, and I'd be a happy man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go. If you need to go pee before we close out, because I think you wanted to do some honourable mention books, right?
No, I mean, I think let's just do the honourable mentions, because I mean, Peter F. Hamilton's one of my honourable mentions in novels as well.
Yeah, anything Peter F. Hamilton. But Reality Dysfunction was where I started, because that's the start of its own trilogy of books, and it's hard sci-fi / space opera. Very much a comment on humanity's psychology, religion, and the importance of religion to a humanity. How you would extrapolate that out over time, where increasingly science is replacing the need for religion, or at least in terms of describing the afterlife. So I thought that was fascinating, the way that he deals with that. And then The Dreaming Void is if you were to mash a really well-written science fiction book with a really well-written fantasy book, you get The Dreaming Void. It's a story told in two voices. One is very much science fiction and hard sci-fi, and the other is very fantasy, stuck on a backwards world. There is no technology. There is magic though.
Mm.
And The Dreaming Void does
about that one.
Yeah, so that's the start of another trilogy. The Dreaming Void does a really good job of mashing a traditional fantasy book with a sci-fi book.
Yeah, okay.
And then The Children of Men. So I've read.
Wait a minute. Before we get off Peter F. Hamilton, my honourable mention for Peter F. Hamilton was Salvation. I've spoken about it before. Salvation is hard sci-fi. Quantum entanglement is a thing.
Yeah.
You no longer catch a train to work. Your personal HUD device walks you through a whole bunch of quantum entanglement portals, and you go to the stations and you walk through 7 or 8 portals to end up in London,
anywhere you want,
and go to your job in the building in London when you live in the coast of Hawaii
or another planet.
Yeah, I mean, and they send ships out that they drop a portal out there, and then they can portal out there, and then they can build a new station out there, and they can build more ships to go to the next portal, and then they're just leapfrogging these portals to get throughout the galaxy.
And then it's a detective story.
It's a detective story, exactly.
It's so fucking well done.
And his writing is just amazing. And we've mentioned this before, Pete, because it just his beautiful description of a 3D game of football is just amazing. And you can visualize where all the players are in a 360 anti-grav football game. You know how this is playing out because he's such an amazing writer.
Where they keep changing the physics as part of the game.
Yeah, because they turn the stadium. Yes.
Yeah, so they turn the gravity up, and they change the laws of physics around trajectories and things. Yeah.
Incredible.
The other one I put in, anything by Peter F. Hamilton, you can't miss. I've read a lot of books that they've since built movie or TV series dynasties on, and the books are almost always, I would say they're sometimes better, but they're almost always very different. So iRobot is extremely different. Yes. I found iRobot very dry, but that's because it was written like 70, 80 years ago. Foundation was quite disconnected. Like Foundation's quite a hard read these days because it talks a lot about old school predictions of technologies that we've since realized. Like we don't call it like atomics. Atomics isn't a thing. We talk about nuclear energy, and it's boring and uninteresting now. Yep. Whereas it was when they first split the atom, and after Oppenheimer, which is quite topical at the moment, the atom bombs go off. They invented the first nuclear power plants. That's kind of the era where he's writing this thing, and he's talking about it being the future of mankind. But Children of Men by P.D. James was a book that I've read that is unequivocally a better read than the really good movie with Clive Owen in it.
Incredible that a really good movie is spawned from an even better book.
Yeah, and it is unequivocally a better book because it goes into a lot more depth. Yes, yeah, goes into a lot more depth. So, but Isaac Asimov, anything by him is brilliant in terms of science fiction. Ian Banks is very popular, but I've struggled to get. I've read 5 or 6 of his, and I can't get into them.
I read what's it called?
Consider Plebis.
Yeah, that one. Consider Plebis.
Plebis, however it's pronounced.
It's
interesting.
It's very interesting, and the main character's a shapeshifter, but he's not. He's not the stereotypical sci-fi Marvel shapeshifter. And once again, a little bit topical, just having the Secret Invasion just gone. He can't shapeshift he can shapeshift on command, but he needs time to reconstruct his body. And he takes the space travel time to his destination to reconstruct his body to the person that he's meant to be at the other end. And
Yeah.
I find that a very interesting. And he's an assassin.
It's designed to be a limit on the magical capability, essentially.
Yes.
Otherwise, he'd be omnipotent, essentially.
Yeah, and I think
it's well conceived. A lot of those books are very well conceived.
I've then went and tried to read more of his stuff and fell into the same thing. I've stopped 2 or 3 of his books just because I'm like, I get it, I just don't find it interesting. Or you're taking too long to get to the hook that should have been somewhere in there. As where Peter F. Hamilton gives you so much information and so much interesting information so quickly, but continues that through the building of his worlds and the story. I feel, and we might get chewed up for this, I feel he's a much better writer and much more interesting.
I completely agree. I also don't know when the fuck my Kindle library dumped all of my comics in there. I got a fuckload of DC comics that's suddenly in my Kindle library that weren't there like 10 minutes ago. I was going to say, I've read a lot of other writers that are very good, but not quite as good. So John Scalzi, Neil Usher. There was a series, and the reason why I opened up my Kindle Cloud Reader library, and I've got too many books in here, is I read somebody, it was a female writer who won a Nebula Award for her books, and it was written in this really interesting way that I'd never read before. It was multiple first person. So the book was an artificial intelligence, but it was a sentience, a true sentience, who had hundreds or thousands of clones. It's been about 10 years. Had thousands of clones to do its maintenance throughout its ship, but it could download a copy of its sentience into each clone. And the book is written in the first person, but that first person represents multiple bodies.
Shifts, yeah.
That's
a bit of a brain fuck.
So it's a ship, and also it's a combat bot that interacts with the world in a military force. Really interesting. I'm fairly certain the book I'm thinking of is called Ancillary Justice. I'm just trying to find the name of the writer.
Quick, because my bladder's getting fuller and fuller at the minute.
Anne Leckie is the name of the writer. Anyway, I think that's it for us. It was our science fiction episode.
That was fun.
It was. Leave a comment. Let us know what your favorite fucking science fiction film, movie, TV show, book was, and which subgenre it fits in, because I'm interested to see what's out there that we haven't talked about.
Cool.
Thanks very much for listening. Good night.